What do you think of my new place?
It's gorgeous.
Is it Pottery Barn? Do you live in a Pottery Barn?
It
I
does look
live
like
now in a pottery barn. Yes. No,
I love-
so
I love the idea of Kevin just being like at the mall, like, pardon me.
Mhm.
Can I borrow this
I
desk for
found
an
a
hour?
niche. Wait, I got to move the duct tape. Okay, so I'm actually in Florida right now, helping my family out with some stuff. I'm at my sister's place, and this is like the guest bedroom slash office. But my family is all still here doing things and watching TV and like getting their stuff done. So I didn't want to tell them like, hey, you all have to be quiet during the show. So look at what I've set up at my doorway here.
Yeah, that's
All right.
good.
That's
Pretty good, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Duct
And then
tape
there's
up.
like-
I love it.
And there's like a bunch of blankets at the bottom. So basically I put up what do you call that foam?
It's like sound dampening foam.
Yeah,
Egg-
but you
Acoustic
crate.
tile.
Yeah, it
Egg
used to be
crate.
like
Yeah.
egg crate, but now
Egg
it's
crate
all
stuff.
wavy, it looks like.
and you yeah, what that is the kind you put on you like a mattress or something.
Why do you
And
did you order that specific for this?
I found it in her closet just before the show, and I'm like, this is perfect. And I took some duct tape and I've just like been MacGyvering this room into a studio, and I think I did pretty okay.
Yeah.
Give me a pottery barn and a closet and some duct tape, and I will make a recording studio.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we'll see. We'll see if like you can hear the reality TV playing in the background, but I'm proud of it.
I think it looks great. I think we should call one of your family members and ask them to stand on the other side of the door and fart, and let's see if it shows up.
That's the true
Mhm.
test.
On
Well,
the...
that my mom doesn't use that term. Growing up, we
Oh, that's right. She doesn't
yeah.
like that I talk about farts so much.
no scatological humor when she's around.
Is it past wind?
Fine.
Something to that tune. But you know, we've got a lot to talk about today. It's been a long day in Florida. I don't know if you can tell, I'm a little sunburnt. It's 8:30 p.m. where I am. It's only 5:30 where you are as we record. So why don't we get this show rolling and enjoy the rest of our Mondays / Tuesdays.
I can't wait for that.
That sounds amazing.
All right,
That's good.
let's roll.
Okay.
Voices, the things they said, voices, some from those dead, all the voices heard. Voices, things we say, voices, they're in your head, all the voices heard.
Hello, everyone. You have Kempa.
And Shannon.
And PJ.
And Andee Sunderland.
Yes. Welcome, Andee, to the show. Obviously, folks listening know that we do not have Skylar. We do not have Flo. They are off doing their city things. But today, we have a very special guest in Andee Sunderland. Andee, you are a member of the Sacramento City Teachers Association. Is that what the acronym stands for?
Yeah, we are the Sacramento City Teachers Association. We're the Sacramento chapter of the California Teachers Association. So,
okay, and you
Yeah.
are a member with SCTA as a substitute teacher. But not only that, you are a co-chair of Sacramento's Democratic Socialists of America. So you are no stranger to organizing and all that comes with that.
that's right. I've been a committed socialist for most of a decade. And, a big part of that for me is getting involved with organized labor. And the way I see it, the best place to do that is as a member of a union, especially a participatory sort of member-led union like SCTA.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm really glad that you were able to come on so last minute. There's kind of, I guess, news happening as we speak. There is the threat, I guess there's currently some disagreement between the superintendent and the school board of Sacramento City Unified School District against the teachers union, as well as the union of the rest of the workers who work in the school district, who are represented by SEIU 1021, correct?
That's right, 10 to 1, all the classified staff. So almost everyone else who works in schools beyond teachers.
And so who are those folks?
So that's like, I've been substituting as a PE teacher. So the 10 to 1 members I see the most of are yard duty. But that's also bus drivers, janitors, front desk staff, I believe. So are all great, hardworking folks who wear a purple shirt.
Wear a purple shirt, they keep the schools running. And, during a time like this, as school districts are reopening, they're serving a really important role. And, there is some danger that comes with that during the age of COVID, right?
Absolutely. My understanding is a lot of their friction with the district has been around their safety not being respected. So, bus drivers having to drive buses that are packed with kids because there's shortages of staff and no, serious attempts to mitigate that by the district.
Yeah. So can you talk to us a little bit, as a member of SCTA, what is going on currently? Because it appears as we record on Monday evening, we started recording at around 5:30. That was basically an hour and a half into the Monday negotiations between the teachers union and the school district. There is danger of a strike coming on Wednesday. What is this all about? What is this strike, possible strike all about?
Well, for the teachers, we stand with classified staff too. Of course, we can't open schools without those workers. But for the teachers, the district's trying to cut our wages and ask for more work, uncompensated, less oversight over our workday. At a time, once again, when there are just devastating shortages of staff. So, in this pandemic, the fewer people there are, the more dangerous it becomes. I know at least one classroom I worked in, I was teaching second graders. It's the only time I've been inside a classroom, and they just threw 6 random sixth graders in with me. And I'm like, I'm a substitute. I don't know what I'm doing with these second graders. Like, hey guys, I guess go sit in the corner with your computers.
Yeah. So they're trying to cut teachers' wages. Aren't there 3 main points of contention between the teachers and the school board?
I haven't seen it boiled down to 3 points necessarily, but they'd like to take 2% off the top of our pay to pay for retiree healthcare. They'd also like us to start paying for our own healthcare. So those are huge pay cuts right off the bat.
Right.
And then they're asking for a 5-year wage freeze. So there would be no new raises.
And really, at the end of the day, isn't it like a wage freeze? That's a pay cut because prices rise. And when your wage isn't rising, then the value of your work is being devalued effectively.
Absolutely. We always struggle with inflation, but that's more severe right now than ever. There's so much price garnishing happening right now. I don't know how I'll keep affording gas to get to work, right?
Right. So, I guess like the 2 main ones I remember reading about were these wages issues, as well as, safety protocols during COVID as, schools are reopening. I look at the superintendent's situation, right? His name is...
You liar.
Jorge Aguilar, right?
Right.
The superintendent of SCUSD. He recently got sort of an update to his contract. And here's his compensation, right? So as of, I believe, the beginning of 2022, Mr. Aguilar's compensation increase includes, and this is according to sacteachers.org, number one, base salary of $327,000 and $327,071. Two, an additional estimated 5.6% salary increase. That's $18,300 based on the California Consumer Price Index for this year. So they're increasing him year to year, and they're asking you teachers to take a huge cut. Three, additional lump sum longevity bonuses of 4%, that's $13,800 in 2022, 5% in 2023, up and up and up as the years go on. And, you know, there's other things going on here, but effectively they're giving Aguilar, who is the superintendent of the school district, who makes already $350,000 a year, they're sweetening his deal while they're telling the workers that you have to grin and bear it and agree to take less.
That's right. He has a salary larger than the governor of California, richest state in the union. And we have a district that pleads poverty every time negotiations come up, even though there is more money in the bank than in our entire history, and not just one-time funds, but ongoing state funding that's been increased over the last few years.
So, I mean, I look at something like this and I see his situation compared to the teacher's situation as far as this, you know, back and forth is going. And it feels to me that the school, the ones who are holding the purse strings are the ones in control here, right? That would be the school board. But, you know, they're claiming that the teachers themselves, the teachers union, is being obstinate, right? That they're not really coming to the table in good faith. And there have been back and forth for a while. This has been a long time coming, right? This sort of moment. The teachers and the school board or the district were not able to come to an agreement by the end of 2021. And at that point, the school district asked for some kind of panel. What was this?
So we just exited the fact-finding period of negotiations, and that's
right. So what is fact-finding?
Yeah, a panel comes in. It's got one person representing the union, one person representing the district, and one, I guess, outside neutral party. And then there's basically a period of time where they gather information and then they put out a report on it. And either side, the district in this case, or the teachers, can choose whether or not to accept the findings. And it basically, it doesn't dictate any action. So no matter how they had found, the district could still give their last, best, and final offer. The teachers could go out on strike. But this fact-finding committee did find overwhelmingly in favor of the teachers, and the idea that to handle this crisis of staffing, it's obviously not in good faith to be offering pay cuts. And so that's what we're operating with now, is that, you know, we're right.
Right. Well, I mean, and it's funny too, because the district basically asked for this fact-finding process to come forward. And once it goes through, now the district doesn't like what they came up with, right? Which is basically, no, you need to take care of your workers or else they're going to find other places to work. You can't retain employees if you continue to make their material conditions worse and worse and worse. So there's still an impasse, and they're still trying, you know, argument over, you know, the table on kind of like where this all lands. On top of this, by the way, we didn't even mention this. The district has an influx of, what is it, 10 million? How much money from the federal? 100 million coming from state and federal purses for use during COVID, right? To support the district during COVID. So all this extra money's coming in, and they're still telling teachers to take their pay cuts. Now, it doesn't seem like they've gone anywhere. And so the teachers have started saying like, okay, here's our deadline. We're going to start. I suppose you all voted to go forward with a strike, right? How did that work?
Absolutely. So I went into a school and actually wore an SEIU 10-to-1 shirt one day, caught the attention of a site rep, because we have a rep who's one of the teacher members at every campus in the district, right? And then she told me, you know, we're wearing red tomorrow. Showed up wearing red. She came up to me in the morning, hey, we're having a meeting after school. So I go in and she's like, kind of starting to prepare us, right? You know, the district isn't bargaining in good faith. You know, this is the offer they're giving. There's a really good chance we're going to have to go out on strike, and not a one-day strike like has been typical for us over the years, but a strike of indeterminate length. And so not long after that, it came time to vote. And then there was no question in my mind. So we voted overwhelmingly to authorize a strike. And then as of last Thursday, the fact-finding report was released, and that's when our strike was announced, starting this Wednesday.
Okay. Now, you know, I've been trying to keep up to this, and it's, you know, for laymen who are not used to this whole process, it's been a little difficult to follow along with. But you know, you had the vote to authorize a potential strike, right? You had a date set for it, you know, and I assume that's like, if an agreement isn't reached, that's when a strike begins, correct?
No. Well, I mean, yes, we could still reach an agreement and not strike, but at this point, the strike has been declared. So we voted to authorize the strike, I think 2 weeks ago. And then last week, because fact-finding finished, we then had the opportunity to actually set a strike date, which we have done starting this Wednesday.
Okay, this will be Wednesday, March 23rd.
That's right.
And there will be, if the strike does carry through and if it goes throughout the week, there will be opportunities for community members to come out and support the teachers. You know, these are public school teachers. They teach your kids, your neighbors' kids, your nieces and nephews. And it's really important to come out and support the teachers during something like this. And we'll get to that in a second. But one thing I noticed, one of the negotiators for the teachers is a pretty well-known person on Twitter, Lori Jablonski.
Love Lori.
Lori's, yeah, incredible. And over the weekend, I think she tweeted a little bit of the inside baseball on what's going on. And she said, you know, the teachers union offered to go to the table over the weekend with the school board, with the administration. The school board said, no, we're going to meet with you on Monday. Now, this gives you sort of an impossible timeline for coming to an agreement now. This is Monday afternoon is when they started. The strike is set to begin Wednesday morning.
Well, and that's not even as bad. Sorry.
Yeah, I think you're going to say what I was going to say, so go ahead.
They offered SEIU 10-to-1 a negotiation date of the 30th, which is 6 days into our shared strike.
So basically, I mean, that's a wild act of bad faith to the janitors and the grounds, you know, all of the people who like are actually the ones keeping these schools up and running, which I think kind of tells you all you need to know about this school board and administration. So they're kind of daring you now to push forward with this. From what I read, I think the teachers union was still going to bring 1021 representatives with them to the table today. So at the very least, you have that happening, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. This is an obvious attempt on the part of the district to drive a wedge between these two unions. Even though, you know, we're people who work side by side and rely on each other every day. In the past, we haven't always gone out on strike together. And this is kind of a unique opportunity that both of our negotiations have lined up. And so I'm, you know, rooting in every way for us to stay strong and stand together.
I think that's really interesting, right? This, the fact that these two unions are working so closely together, because you look back, I forget when it was, I suppose it was 3-4 years. And the leadership, you know, the administration, they basically got 10-1 to agree to some pay cuts and to take away some of their benefits, saying like, hey, we're broke, we got to do it for the kids, sorry. Obviously, of course, meanwhile, they're giving the superintendent raises. And then they tried to do the same thing to the teachers, but the teachers union was so strong that they pushed back. And I believe they won against the administration.
I believe we,
I don't know if
upheld our contract at the time, basically.
Basically, just upholding the ongoing contract.
Mm-hmm.
But do you remember what was happening in the newspapers at that time? How they were painting this?
I don't read the newspapers that much, honestly.
Well, let me tell you about a
Better for
guy
it.
named Marcos Bertone.
I catch his work sometimes.
You see it sometimes. So he wrote a piece during that time. He has a long history of being very, very anti-teachers union, which I don't know if, like, I know we've got a couple Marcos experts on here. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I'm going to say that he's pretty much following the playbook that I've heard in almost every previous time, every previous go round. It's always the same thing. It's always, you know, it's not the district that's making the students suffer. It's the teachers that are making the students suffer. And it's always the same refrain every single time when you expect these teachers to be able to make a moderate amount of money to actually be able to afford to, you know, do the things that they do just within the school. Not even talking about, you know, the extra time outside of school that they're working on these projects. So but it's always the same refrain. It's always the teachers are threatening the kids. It's not the district.
Yeah. And so not only that, and like he was doing the same refrain again, but he was using the same wedge that Andee was just talking about and saying like, listen, you know, 10-1 agreed to this. They're thinking about the kids. Look at these greedy teachers, you know, like they refuse to back down, and it's to the detriment of the children of Sacramento. So I mean, like, as a member of, you know, SCTA, kind of what are your thoughts on that sort of argument?
Well, what I remember from that time, that last conflict, and I was organizing support for the teachers through DSA, was that they had convinced everyone that we were risking state receivership, that we were basically risking bankruptcy, and we would lose, you know, a democratically elected school board in favor of someone coming in from the state and taking over the district. And what happened not long after they were promoting these claims is that they actually found something like, I want to say $3 million just lying around. Like they had just fully undercounted the number of schools they would get revenue from. Just left a few off the list.
Yeah,
So.
funny math by the leadership there. Yeah, I mean, and you know, we've talked about that on the show. How can you trust a school board or a superintendent ever again after they pull a kind of shell game like that?
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
What I see forces of austerity at work, basically.
Yeah, exactly. This is sort of the neoliberal reality that we live in today, where those in power are really doing everything they can to seep out what they can from the workers, the folks out there like fighting to really just stay in their homes, things like that. So this time feels a little different, and I didn't really, that didn't cross my mind, the fact that the negotiations are sort of happening at the same time. But hopefully this sets a really good precedent for 1021 and SCTA to just perpetually come out for each other, because you kind of get the impression that they want to anyway.
Yeah, we are much stronger together. The schools don't run without us. And we're the people closest to this system and to the kids. And in terms of assessing the needs of kids right now, they need more teachers, they need more staff. It's been a wild couple of years. There's a lot of catch up to do. If anything, we need counselors, we need nurses, we need everybody on board.
Yeah, and the district is severely understaffed.
So I think about 490 people.
Yeah, that's incredible. Really?
That's what one of the articles I read said. 490 people after you take into account the number of substitutes working in permanent positions. So, yeah.
Wow. So I look at a piece that Marcos wrote this week saying, what happens when a union is too strong? Which I love that question.
It's so whack.
What does happen, folks? I don't know.
It's nice to imagine.
Yeah, like I guess I've never seen it, so I don't know. But this is what he's positing, right? I mean, this is a guy who, I don't know who he's talking to, like Jay Hansen, who is basically the he is the Steve Maviglio of the history of SCUSD. He is just kind of the worst of the worst that was like really diving deep into it as the superintendent when the acrimony between the teachers and the school board was really at one of its lowest points. And like, these are the people that I feel like must have Marcos's ear, because I'm looking at this stuff and I'm like, how can you possibly think that like the problem here is the workers, like that the workers are like strangling, like they, I don't know, somebody walk me through this.
Yeah, I mean, he does pretend to be an outside observer. Meanwhile, he is absolutely texting school board members while he's at board meetings, I
mean, this whole piece, I was going to use a different word for it.
Article?
The trash.
Oh, that's good too, yeah.
Piece of what?
Yeah, this whole piece of trash.
Because it's not an article, yeah.
Really, like, it does the thing that capitalists love to do, which is to say, like, I mean, I think at one point he even says it, like, listen, I want folks to be able to get paid more, but it's just not possible right now, considering the current climate, and therefore the people who are wanting to get paid more are causing suffering of children. Like, that is the whole, he says that a couple times, and then he talks about at one point how the union leaders are behaving in such a way that makes it seem like they want to lead in partnership with the superintendent. And it's like, really, I mean, the union leaders are just saying, like, we want to be able to support our workers and make sure that folks are, bringing home a paycheck that helps them live their lives, and that recognizes, that, like, it is absolutely asinine to ask for people to not only take a 2% pay cut, but pay $10,000 more in health insurance, and then also take a pay freeze. So you're asking for people to take essentially 3 pay cuts. Like, I don't know. I mean, the whole thing, walking through Marcos's trash opinion is, that he really just feels like this is so silly, and that the kids are really suffering. So
The term you used earlier, Andy, was austerity, right? Like, and maybe you can explain a little bit more for folks what that means. This sort of like, where those holding the purse strings, standing all above us, are sort of like kind of admonishing those of us below them.
Absolutely. It's been a common practice in public policy since the 70s, basically, to try and defund all of our public institutions. Thanks to the great Maggie Thatcher, the idea is that we don't live in a society. We're just people and families. And having spent some time in the schools, we are just hanging on by a thread, but we do live in a society, and our public schools are the bedrock of it. And what I see in this article is just pure misogynistic vitriol. I see it all the time in how teachers are covered in the press. They call us strong, and I don't have a problem with being strong, obviously, but they villainize these, mostly women. It's a feminized profession, right? For daring to have power. And, they expect us to do this work as volunteers, basically, when obviously it's a job, and it's a job that deserves to be compensated appropriately.
Yeah, I mean, it's a profoundly important job. This is, the education of the youngest in our society, right? Yeah, and I look at his piece too, and I notice the one thing that gets to me, and I guess we touched on this a little already, is when he sort of laments and is scared by the idea of what happens when the teachers union has too much power, right? So let's walk down that path, right? He's like, well, they're trying to wrest all the power from the superintendent. I'm curious to know why this is a bad thing.
Yeah, I'd be curious as well, because from my understanding, I mean, as a new teacher, substitute teacher, someone working with a lot of great teachers every day, all we want is to run great schools, to support kids, to educate them, bring them through these, key stages of their social and intellectual development. And we're the people who know how to do it. So while Aguilar's interest is running the district like a business he's trying to run into the ground, from what I can see, we just want to educate kids.
Yeah. And, when Marcos says something like that, it harkens me a little bit to interest, and like we can talk about like how the correlate here does or does not work, but the same thing that those in power were saying about the people's budget when you were first, like PJ, you're a part of the people's budget in Sacramento, like when you were first starting to actually have sway and like kind of change the conversation. I remember Daryl Steinberg coming out and saying, well, like well, if you want to run the budget, like run for office then. And it's like, this is the way these people's minds work, right? It's like you have to be a part of this power, this class in power, right? The ones that take the developer money and use it to get into office. That's when you're going to be respected. That's when you're allowed to be a steward of the people's money.
Yeah, and that's when they're required to listen to you. And it's like not until then, not prior to that. They're not going to listen to any of your concerns. They're not going to find out what your needs are in your community for people's budget or for the teachers to support the students. It's at any point up to that, they're not going to listen to it because they act as though any give way that they may give is going to be perceived as weakness and is going to be perceived, and they have to draw it out as though is this villainous thing, when in reality, all the teachers are asking for is the support to be able to help the students and make sure that we bring up, I mean, unfortunately, very capitalist, but to bring up a new generation of workers. But if you want to compete globally, that's what you got to do. And they're literally not willing to invest in that.
I mean, I think one of the things about this that, like, as I was reading Marcos's piece, just thinking about like what he's essentially saying or asking is that the union, like, you elect your leadership into the union and then the union just stay quiet and cooperate with the superintendent, right? Just instead of affirming the work that is happening here with the union and saying like they're actually like living into exactly what you want union leadership to live into, right? Which is to stand up for the worker and to advocate for better working conditions. Like, they're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. So what he's saying is like, just everybody please just get along and don't kick up any shit, because that's just messy for everyone, which is whack.
Yeah, I mean, Breton's not exactly a big believer in, I mean, I would go so far as say democracy, right? But any kind of people's driven movement. Because my biggest experiences with him have been him attacking like that affordable housing advocates and calling them greedy. So really, he thinks anyone who's not cutting budgets is begging for things they didn't earn, I guess.
Just the audacity
Right.
of calling folks like that greedy, like renters who are just trying to keep people in their homes, teachers who just want to have a living wage as they teach kids, right?
Mhm.
And meanwhile, these CEOs that he goes to these galas with, and Marcos, I've been to a couple of these and I've seen you with them, like, these are the people that he thinks are the goodies of the community, right? That these are the ones that are really trying their best for us. And like, if we don't listen to their austerity talk, then, oh boy, we're all in for it. Like, fuck you, man. Like, that's not how this works. And like, increasingly, it's good to see the workers and the renters organizing, right, and gaining power. But he is really kind of one of the central figures that really shows you just how these folks, this generation in particular, have thought about things for so long. I guess my only little thing, my little sweet summer child thing here is that
There it is.
took us a decade. We got him. We turned him around on homelessness a little bit, right?
That's
like,
true.
could we do it on something regarding capital?
I mean, I would say don't hold your breath just yet, but maybe, like, anytime I read something that's like, yeah, these workers deserve more pay, I don't even remember what he says, but not, we've just been through so much with COVID, like, this just isn't the right time And then I'm like, okay, this guy still has a ways to go, because the reality is that, like, to me, as a result of what has happened throughout the pandemic, that gives a greater sense of urgency for supporting folks who are going into classrooms and supporting, I can't say supporting twice, and making sure that, you know, the folks who are doing the really hard work of teaching kids, being present for them, like, have all of the things that they need, right? Like, what we should be doing is saying, here's extra money because here's all the money and all the benefits, because you're probably going to get really fucking sick, because all of a sudden you're around a bunch of kids and they got a lot of boogers coming out of their nose and they're coughing on each other and shit.
Won't keep a mask on
Dude.
to save their lives.
Right. Just like all of here. So here, instead of pay freezes and 2% cuts and asking for more money to pay for healthcare, we're just going to continue to subsidize your healthcare in a way that makes sense. And also, like, here's extra for you because this shit is like really fucked up. So thank you for what you're doing. You know, you're raising children, basically.
Yeah, he said he wants teachers to be paid more.
Right. But
he
not
just
if
doesn't.
it means whatever the fuck he said.
He thinks we have too much power, but not enough pay, somehow.
Which
So,
is bullshit, because if you had the power that he says that you have, you'd all be fucking paid great. Everyone and everything would be working super well, and no one would have to go on strike, and the district wouldn't be like emailing parents asking for volunteers to come in and like sit with kids in the classroom.
yeah, it's painful for teachers to go on strike right now. Like, I'm new to this. I'm a sub. I haven't gotten really close with any class or school particularly, but I hear from other teachers, and, you know, this is spring. It's when the kids finally have gotten through the Christmas holidays or winter holidays and are settled into a routine and can really, like, some of this learning can pay off. And so this isn't something that any teacher wants to do, just because they all really believe in their profession. And so it's an act of, I mean, not desperation, but determination to maintain schools that can meet the needs of these kids, because so many kids are just left on a waiting list right now and aren't receiving any kind of education at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I ask, because I know we're hoping to talk a little bit about one more topic before the show's over. Can I ask, Andee, you know, let's say that this strike begins Wednesday, March 23rd, and it goes through the week. How can people of Sacramento come together and support SCTA and 1021?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. I mean, the number one thing to do is just show up to the picket lines. You know, check our socials, because they'll be set up at different schools. If you have a neighborhood school or a school, you know, you're connected to the community of, you know, see if you can show up there. And otherwise, there will be a main picket at Scta Center. And DSA, we've also been a part of organizing some further community support. We're going to help teachers and classifieds deliver meals to the picket lines. And so if you want to volunteer for that, it'll be on Democratic Socialists of America socials, you know, reach out to us.
Very cool. Do we have anything else to add on this topic? Anyone?
No.
It just seems like, you know, it's a shame it's come to this, but this is an objectively good thing. And so more power to the teachers and more power to 1021. And the more these little fish come together, the bigger our fist becomes, and the less those in power can fuck with us. So that's really exciting. You know, Andee, you're like, I met you years and years ago when I was considering joining DSA, God, like ages ago. You come from a family of organizers. So it's very fun to have you on and talk about organizing. So thanks so much for talking about this with us.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. It is a really exciting time.
Awesome. Also, if you'd like to just stick around with us, we've got like a few minutes. We wanted to just discuss one more union thing that's happening here in the region.
Sure.
This is our final segment about one Richard Lewis Brown, the rise and fall of a man. The classic, really Icarus storyline, right, of hubris, that he got so close to the sun that he changed the locks of SEIU 1000's headquarters.
That's
We've
my
all been tempted to do it.
favorite.
I mean, right. Just incredible. So for folks who don't know, Richard Lewis Brown is the elected president of SEIU 1000, which is a very, very large union here in California. I think it represents 90-some thousand workers, I believe, for the state. And there was an election. There, the former president of the union had really fallen out of favor with a lot of people. And in the most recent election, there was sort of some division among different factions of votes. And Richard Lewis Brown was really a dark horse who kind of just like slid in with a plurality of the votes. He is a character. We've talked about him twice on the show before. He had a platform basically on like numerology and like on taking politics out of the union and on an absurd, I forget what the percentage was, wage raise for everyone in the union.
Oh, 20%.
Yeah, something like that. Which, like, you know, if possible, Godspeed. But like he ended up being sort of this, I guess, somewhat reactionary, how would you put it, a populist figure, sort of brought some kind of Trumpian vibes to the work he was doing. And he just went head to head with kind of the rest of the leadership, the vice presidents and the rest of the folks in the union. He did all sorts of things. We don't have time to even go through everything he did.
So much.
Yeah, I know. One of my favorites was he would take the union meetings hostage and would just talk the entire time so that they couldn't actually go through with the any of the work of the day that had to be done. He wouldn't let anyone else talk in these meetings. What did he do? He published years and years of credit card usage from leadership in the union, which actually that was kind of funny for me. What else?
I mean, like some of his like first, like right when he took the leadership position or elected position, didn't he spend like $3,000 or $4,000 like at a spa or something?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Which was either a spa or it was a private eye who had a business based out of the same address.
Right.
And I don't think we still haven't figured out if he got like a massage or hired a private eye.
Right.
And then this all came to a head when basically I believe the vice presidents came together and were like, you know what, we need to suspend him. We're going to hold a vote and like, you know, so we can actually carry on the business of the union. This is possibly one of the most important unions in the country. And him knowing that they were about to do that a few days before they did this officially, he came forward with an edict saying that every one of the vice presidents in the union was suspended. And it turned into this like this sort of classic, like, who's in charge now? Like, what's even going on moment. I believe the VPs locked him and his folks out of the headquarters.
It's
And then
so
he
good.
showed up. Oh, I
Right.
know. And then over the weekend, he showed up at the headquarters. This is in downtown Sacramento. This is on our street.
On our street, yeah.
He showed up with a bunch of his just wild-eyed supporters. A lot of them
From last
are workers at a prison up north, northern California, that he's trying not to let Governor Gavin Newsom close. And they basically like a classic move. We've all done this move. Someone's coming out of the doorway. You just kind of put your foot in the door. One of his folks did that. They went in and they changed all of the locks in the building. And then they started they brought a locksmith in to get into the union attorney's office and were threatening to go through their stuff.
And they removed documents.
Yeah,
They removed documents too.
Boxes, yeah.
Yeah. And so anyway, all of this results in they go to court the following week and a county judge is like, no, you need to step down or else you're in trouble. So he finally did. I don't know. Any thoughts at the end of this saga? I don't think I did any justice to this saga. It's the weirdest story.
I mean, my thought would be that you get this kind of dysfunction from a union with very low member participation.
Yes.
We had a kind of autocratic president before. I was happy to see her go, just because of
This
the way
was Yvonne Walker, right?
Yeah, Yvonne, just the way she did, political deals and whatnot, and didn't facilitate, a really participatory union. But this is kind of the boogeyman of why you don't run, progressive reform slates in your union, is you might split the vote and bring in a complete whacknut reactionary who organizes the prison guards.
And who wins with 2,500 votes out of a union of 100,000, something like that.
That's right.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that. It was wild.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's not much else to add to that. It is potentially the conclusion of one of the weirdest storylines in California labor that I've seen in ages. I was looking at photos from the SAC-B article. Do you know who I saw in one of those photos?
Who?
Did any of you catch who it was?
No.
No.
I'll give you a clue. It's the landlord of the United States of America.
Oh, my
Oh,
God.
Steve?
Steve was just randomly in one of the pictures.
Very cool. Was
I don't
he
know
on
what
the side-
Maviglio was doing there.
Well, he's the one who stuck his foot in the door.
Maybe. Well, I know he's not a fan of R.L. Brown. That's the only thing I've ever agreed with him on.
Interesting. Of course. He was like, there's cameras.
But
And the
yeah,
gold
I know. It was
cameras
just so funny to see him randomly in the picture. Yeah, so I don't know. I know we've had a couple of SEIU 1000 people on this show, just union members, negotiator folks, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who are glad to see this chapter end, but hopefully this is a moment of growth, for that union as a whole.
Yeah, I hope
I
this
thought-
wakes people up and gets the union back on track.
Totally.
Wes, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but at the B, his coverage of this story was phenomenal. So credit where that's due.
It was really
Yeah.
great. I was listening to it as if it were a true crime podcast. So
Mhm. Well, there's a 13-minute interview between him and RL that is you just cannot miss it. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's that with that. I don't know if we've ever had a full labor episode. I'm feeling pretty happy about that.
yeah, also this when I sent the text message last night about topics for the show, I should say that these were not my ideas. They were Skylar's partner's ideas.
That's amazing.
So
Well,
we
are
were
we allowed to
having-
say her name? Is
Oh, probably Frida.
Okay.
I mean,
Thank you,
people know
Frida,
that.
for the story ideas.
I
'Cause
was like,
that's
we were having beers and I was like, what are we gonna talk about? And Skylar and I looked at each other like, I don't know." And so
Well, I love to see the labor coverage. The cause of labor is the hope of the world.
I like that.
I love that.
Yeah, I'm increasingly like trying to dive into the ins and outs of labor, but one thing that always terrifies me is education. I'm happy to get into the rough and tumble of like the worst of worst politics, but like education is like the scariest fucking thing, because there's hell hath no fury like an angry parent. And I have historically as a journalist have just not that. So but this is really important stuff. So I'm glad we had you on today. I'm glad we got to talk about this.
Yeah, really. Thanks for
Yeah.
being here.
Thank you.
Again, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. So I guess we round this out. What do you think?
Yeah. Anyone going to the Clooney Center this weekend?
Ooh.
I hear it's wonderful.
Yeah. Maybe we can have some kind of mutual aid, bring some food out there, help some folks who might need some help, and see what's going on inside there, right? Maybe
Yeah,
around
I'm
10 a.m. on Saturday.
I'm always interested on what's going on inside at especially
Yeah.
this weekend.
Yeah. So folks, if you're interested in knowing what the folks of McKinley Village think about our unhoused neighbors, maybe go pay them a visit as they're having their boozy brunch in the Clooney Center in McKinley Park. We've talked about this before. I think listeners know what we're talking about, but these are some severely anti-homeless folks who are trying to stage effectively a recall election against our District 4 city council member, who has done more probably than just about anyone on that dais as far as trying to find safe spaces for unhoused people to go. So it's profoundly embarrassing that they would try and use homelessness as a grounds for her recall. But we've seen some very, very stupid recalls throughout the state that have also been very, very successful. So I think it's time we fight back with everything we have. I'm making a list of everyone involved in this recall effort. If you have any clues, if you have any leads on names, please reach out to me. I will add them to the list and we will work with that as we go. But beyond that, like maybe we just call the show soon.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Well, just so you know, folks, we are on Patreon. Patreon.com/Voices River City. We love what we do. We want to keep doing it. If you love what we do, please put down, as little as $5 a month, as much as $25 a month, just to help us keep this thing moving. If you do that $25 a month, what is it? Donation? What was that called? Pledge. You do get a t-shirt and a mug out of that one. We're having, as I publish this on Tuesday, March 22nd, we will hit our 50,000th download, which is a pretty cool milestone to hit. We've got many more views on YouTube as well, but as far as downloads go, that's really cool as well. We will be having a celebration for that in April. And I guess we're all on. Oh, go Andy.
I didn't get to tell you guys, my boyfriend's a huge fan, so I'm used to hearing all of your voices echo out of the bathroom while he's in the shower.
I love that.
That's great.
Well, now you're going to hear your own voice echoing out of your shower.
Right.
That's right.
So let's wrap it up. I am on Twitter at Kempa. Why are you KNOWKEMPA?
I'm at Shan N.D. Stevens.
And I'm at AOL Bytes.
And Andy, how can we find you on the soch?
Oh, I have the worst handle, but it's a subtler gin. But I'm on private, so you'll have to request.
Oh, you are? Okay, well, you better get her permission then, folks. As you all know, Dr. Flo is at Flojaune, Flojaune, and Skylar is as national right-wing media has told us all, at guillotine for you. That's guillotine, the number 4 YOU. That's it for the show.
Dang.
Good luck to SCTA and 1021. We
Say
will
that.
keep following that as we go. If I were in California right now, I would be going out this week. I think it's a really important and really exciting time. So congrats to all of you out there for what you're doing, and solidarity.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
That's
then,
See y'all
the
in the
show.
tickets.
We're gonna
Yeah.
do it again next time.
all right. What a weird way to end the episode. All right. Bye, everyone.